It's 1999, the millennium is about to turn, and Tim Burton delivers a gothic masterpiece that proved supernatural thrillers could be both terrifying and breathtakingly beautiful. Sleepy Hollow wasn't just another horror movie, wrapped in fog and drenched in arterial spray. With Johnny Depp playing the traumatized Ichabod Crane and Christopher Walken as the legitimately nightmare-inducing Headless Horseman, this film became an instant Halloween classic. But behind those haunting visuals and that pounding score, there's a treasure trove of almost casting disasters, on-set surprises, and connections you definitely missed. Today, we're counting down 13 weird facts you didn't know about Sleepy Hollow. Before we dive in, if you're feeling nostalgic for the era of practical effects and Burton at his absolute peak, hit that like button and subscribe. Number 13, the role that almost went to Brad Pitt before Johnny Depp donned those tiny spectacles and became the faint-hearted constable we know and love. Brad Pitt was actually in serious talks to play Ichabod Crane. This was peak heartthrob Brad Pitt, fresh off Fight Club territory, and he would have brought a completely different energy to the role. But scheduling conflicts pushed him out, and honestly, can you imagine anyone but Depp doing that squeamish, physical comedy while investigating murders? Depp brought this neurotic, almost Chaplin-esque quality that made Ichabod simultaneously cowardly and endearing. Pitt might have been great, but he would have been great in a totally different movie. Sometimes the universe just knows what it's doing, and this was one of those times. Number 12, Christopher Walken sharpened his own teeth. Let's talk about Christopher Walken's Headless Horseman for a second. Those terrifying, pointed teeth you see in his flashback scenes. Walken actually filed down his own teeth to get that look. Now, before you panic, they were fake prosthetic teeth. But still, the man committed to the bit by personally sharpening them to achieve maximum nightmare fuel. He wanted the horseman to look genuinely feral and inhuman, like something that crawled out of hell itself. The dedication paid off, because even though the horseman spends most of the movie without a head, those brief glimpses of Walken's face are absolutely chilling. It's that kind of old-school commitment to craft that you just don't see as often anymore. Walken understood that even in small moments, you've got to sell the monster. Number 11, the Tree of the Dead was entirely practical. That massive, twisted Tree of the Dead that serves as the horseman's lair, that wasn't CGI. It was a real, physical set piece that took months to build. The production team constructed this enormous hollow tree structure on a soundstage in England, complete with twisted roots, a gnarled entrance, and an interior filled with bones and darkness. They could have easily gone the digital route, especially since it was right when CGI was becoming more affordable and common. But Burton insisted on practical effects wherever possible. He wanted actors to physically interact with the environment, to feel the weight and texture of this dark fairy tale world. Walking into that tree set apparently gave the cast legitimate chills, which translated perfectly to screen. There's something about practical effects that just hits differently. Number 10. The film was inspired by Mario Bava, not just horror literature. Everyone assumes Sleepy Hollow is purely inspired by Washington Irving's original story and maybe some Gothic literature, but Burton's actual biggest influence was Italian horror director Mario Bava. If you've ever seen Bava's films from the 60s and 70s, you'll recognize the DNA immediately. Those saturated colors, the theatrical fog, the dramatic lighting that turns every scene into a painting. Burton screened Bava films for his cinematographer Emanuel Lubezki and said he wanted Sleepy Hollow to feel like stepping into one of those classical Technicolor nightmares. The film's color palette, especially those deep blues and stark whites, comes directly from studying how Bava used lighting to create atmosphere. It's why Sleepy Hollow doesn't look like other horror movies from 1999. It's deliberately reaching back to a different era of filmmaking entirely. Number 9. Christina Ricci's concerned casting. Christina Ricci landed the role of Katrina Van Tassel, but there was genuine concern from the studio that audiences wouldn't buy her as a romantic lead opposite Johnny Depp. She was still known primarily as Wednesday Addams, the darkly comic child actress from the Addams Family films. Some executives worried she was too associated with that character and couldn't pull off being an adult romantic interest. Burton basically told them to trust him, and of course, Ricci proved everyone wrong. Ethereal, mysterious quality to Katrina, while also making her feel grounded and real. The chemistry between her and Depp worked precisely because there was something slightly off-kilter about both of them. Looking back, it seems absurd anyone doubted her, but that's Hollywood for you. Always underestimating actors who show range. Number 8, the infamous decapitation count. Here's a fun one. Sleepy Hollow features a total of 9 on-screen decapitations, which might be a record for a mainstream studio film that isn't explicitly a slasher. Burton fought hard to keep every single one because he felt the film needed to honor the Grand Guignol tradition of theatrical horror. The MPAA kept threatening him with an NC-17 rating, and Burton had to keep trimming frames here and there, literally cutting the cuts, to maintain the R rating while keeping the essential impact. What's brilliant is that the decapitations never feel gratuitous because they're shot so stylistically, almost like a dance. The horseman's sword work has this balletic quality, and the blood looks almost painterly against that desaturated color scheme. It's horror as art, which was precisely Burton's intention all along. Number 7, Michael Gambon, almost played a different role. Michael Gambon, who plays the corrupt Baltus Van Tassel, was originally considered for the role of the burgomaster, that pompous town leader who gets his comeuppance early on. But Burton met with Gambon and immediately realized he needed him for something meatier. Gambon has this ability to seem charming and menacing simultaneously, perfect for a character who's hiding dark secrets behind a prosperous facade. Moving him to the Van Tassel role completely changed the dynamic of the mystery because suddenly you've got this heavyweight actor making you question everything. It's one of those brilliant last-minute casting shifts that elevates the entire film. Gambon brings such gravitas that when his character's true nature is revealed, it actually lands with impact rather than feeling like a twist for twist's sake. Quick break, drop a comment and tell us, which death scene in Sleepy Hollow lives rent-free in your head? And if you're enjoying this trip back to 1999, make sure you're subscribed because we've got more nostalgic deep dives coming your way. Number 6. The real Headless Horseman's stunt work. Here's something genuinely impressive. Many of the Headless Horseman's horseback scenes were performed by a real stuntman on a real horse, wearing a blue hood that was digitally removed in post-production. His name was Ray Park, who you might know better as Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace, which came out the same year. Park had to ride at full gallop, swing a sword with precision, and make it all look supernatural and threatening, while essentially riding blind with his head covered. The physical coordination required was insane, and it's why the horseman's movements feel so weighty and real compared to fully CGI creatures. Sure, they added digital effects for the headless portions and some of the more impossible movements, but having that practical foundation made everything more visceral. That's a real person on a real horse coming at you, and your brain registers that danger. Number 5. The voice of the crone was uncredited genius. The terrifying crone of the western woods, who gives Ichabod that crucial information, was played by a virtually unrecognizable performer doing some serious physical acting. But here's the thing. Her creepy, whispered voice in some versions was actually provided by someone else entirely in post-production looping. The exact details remain somewhat mysterious because the voice work went uncredited, but it was part of Burton's obsession with getting every audio element perfect. He wanted her warnings to sound genuinely otherworldly, like something between human speech and wind through dead trees. The amount of attention paid to even minor characters shows how Burton sweated every detail. That scene in the windmill works because everything about the crone feels genuinely unsettling, from her movements to her voice to her strange relationship with the supernatural. Number 4. The film's color grading. Sleepy Hollow pioneered a color grading technique that became hugely influential in horror and fantasy films for the next decade. Cinematographer Emanuel Lubezki worked with the lab to desaturate most colors except for red, creating that distinctive washed-out look where blood pops against pale, almost monochromatic backgrounds. This wasn't just an aesthetic choice, it was a technical innovation that required custom processing. Before Sleepy Hollow, you didn't really see mainstream films production this aggressively. Afterward, everyone started doing it. Films like Underworld, Sweeney Todd, and countless others borrowed this approach. It proved you could give a modern film the feel of classic cinema through color science rather than just through production design. Burton didn't just make a great-looking movie, he accidentally helped define what dark fantasy would look like for years. Number 3. Martin Landau's secret cameo connection. Martin Landau appears as Peter Van Garrett in the opening scene, and horror fans might have experienced déjà vu watching him die in a Burton film. Landau won an Oscar for playing Bela Lugosi in Burton's Ed Wood just 5 years earlier, and here he was again, meeting a grisly end in another Burton Gothic tale. But there's a deeper connection. Landau's character in Ed Wood was all about classic horror films, and now he was literally in one. Burton loved these little meta-touches, these connections that rewarded people who paid attention to his filmography. It's also worth noting that Landau's death scene sets the entire tone. His terror feels genuine, and it tells you immediately that this movie isn't playing around. Even respected actors are getting decapitated in the first 5 minutes, so buckle up. Number 2, the windmill fight almost burned down the set. That climactic windmill sequence, where everything goes up in flames, they were actually using real fire, and things got dangerously close to disaster. The interior windmill set was rigged with controlled pyrotechnics, but the fire spread faster than expected during one take, and the crew had seconds to evacuate before the entire structure would have been unsalvageable. They managed to get it under control, but you can actually see in some shots just how massive and genuine those flames were. Burton insisted on practical fire effects because he wanted the actors to react to real danger, to feel actual heat on their faces. It's that commitment to authenticity that makes the scene work. There's genuine chaos happening, and the cast isn't acting scared. They're actually experiencing something intense. Digital flames would have been safer, but nowhere near as effective. Number 1, Johnny Depp modeled Ichabod on Angela Lansbury. Here's the weirdest and most delightful fact. Johnny Depp based his entire physical performance as Ichabod Crane on Angela Lansbury. Specifically, he studied her movements in The Manchurian Candidate, watching how she carried herself with this precise, slightly theatrical elegance. He wanted Ichabod to move like someone from another era, someone delicate and refined who was completely unprepared for the brutal reality he encounters. If you rewatch Sleepy Hollow knowing this, you'll absolutely see it. Those hand gestures, the way he holds his body, even some facial expressions have this quality that's almost feminine in its grace. It's such a strange, inspired choice that somehow works perfectly. Leave it to Depp to look at a gothic horror script and think, you know what this needs? Angela Lansbury energy. And leave it to Tim Burton to say, yes, absolutely, perfect. And there you have it, 13 facts that prove Sleepy Hollow was even weirder and more wonderful behind the scenes than we knew. Drop a comment telling us which fact surprised you most, and share this with anyone who still watches this every Halloween. Until next time, keep those memories alive and those nostalgia fires burning.